Welcome to the Wellness on Tap podcast with your host, Dr. Debs Eastwood.
Good to go. Fabulous. So I'm really honoured today to have sitting opposite me the wonderful Summer Kang,
Hi.
who hosts her own podcast, which I'm going to ask her a little bit about as well, but has a really interesting journey, and a lot of it is around spirituality. And I just want to give her free rein because the stuff that she covers in her podcasts all has a basis in spirituality, but it's about so much more than that. So welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And thank you. I'm delighted that you're here. So how long ago did you start your podcast?
So Inner Wealth That Everybody Knows Now came out in June, but my original podcast was nearly 2 years ago. But earlier this year, we revamped it, changed the name, changed the cover, and updated it. And yeah, so it's been a few months now. It's doing okay.
I think you can say it's doing a little bit better than okay. No, you've done really well.
Thank you. Yeah, it took some work, but it's filled with a lot of love. So I'm glad that the world is feeling that.
Absolutely. And so they should. So can you give people a bit of a taste of the sort of things that you might cover, things that mean something to you?
All things that happen in the self-development journey, because it can be really lonely. And as much as the world is really opening up to it, it can still be scary to have those conversations. And that was kind of where it started for me. Being a teen who was into self-development and into the spiritual way of life, it isn't an everyday topic amongst people my age. So originally I thought, okay, I can create that space that's missing in the world through my podcast. So ironically, it actually is older people listening to it. So like 25 to 65 is the main demographic. So even though it isn't as much younger people my age, I'm just glad that it's going where it needs to go. So all the topics are just things that I've had to really learn. And now I put them into quite short episodes that tend to be between like 4 and 8 minutes, which is really intentional because I love long form content, but sometimes I listen to things and I think we could have got there a lot faster. So I thought, okay. And also I don't necessarily want to have to create huge chunks of time when I can get there in a lot shorter period of time. So I try and like really pack it in with valuable things. And I often get people telling me they've listened to it a few times to really break down the full episode. They're like, okay, you said a few things there where I had to just replay it and go back and listen again. So the topics just vary from, things I've experienced, things that people it keeps bringing up. I keep seeing other people going through. And then I will kind of sit with that, experience it myself, gather information, and then take what feels like that line of truth in all things, and then regurgitate it and share it with the world.
Which is amazing. I mean, you are only 19. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
That's okay.
So for somebody so young to be so spiritually enlightened and have that confidence and the commitment that it takes as well, the work that it takes to be able to do that, I think is a fantastic achievement. And I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you so much.
So you're quite a few episodes in now, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we're at 31 tomorrow, I think.
Brilliant.
I believe, something like that. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. And just solo episodes.
Currently they're solo. Yeah. Just because people have taken to that. And also that's the thing that I'm good at, like creating the content. So for now they are. Definitely I'm open to having interviews in the future. I have some really cool people that, I could bring on, and so at some point I think that will happen. But for now it's something that I don't want to change the quality of the work when people are taking to it. Why would I then throw in something and people not take to that? But in life you have to be open to, new avenues. So I will at some point. But for now, it's working and I'm enjoying it, and I don't want to change something that's working.
That both incredibly important points.
Absolutely.
That you enjoy it and it's working. What's that saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I agree.
Precisely. I mean, were you doing much on social media beforehand? Do you still do a lot on social media?
Not overly. It's ironic that my work has now become public because naturally, like in nature, I'm actually really private. So even like I have friends, sometimes they're like, I can't believe I've known you for so long and only still know like I'm still learning. And I think that's like, just because I'm always growing and changing. So naturally you're going to, you know, have, if your friends are that way inclined, you're always learning about each other and the people around you. But yeah, I think, yeah, sorry, go on.
No. So I'm just going to say, a lot of people do start their journey on social media.
Yeah.
And find their voice, literally, to put into a podcast. From that, clearly not everybody's the same. And isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
Isn't that a good thing? You still promote on social media?
Yeah,
then?
definitely more active now especially on Instagram is the main thing. Outside of that, it hasn't been, I post on like Facebook and LinkedIn just because you're meant to also do that. So I just do, I guess, what I'm told to do.
Yeah. Just
to naturally promote it. And I think it's just trusting that it's going to go where it's meant to go. So if people want to follow, they can. Put little updates on there. So if anybody does want to follow, innerwealth.podcast. And it's nice just to feel more connected, because podcasting, you're not that connected to the people who listen. Whereas Inner Wealth on Instagram gives people the chance to like message me and DM me, and that's really cool. Gives that personal touch to like a face to people who are listening. And sometimes it's people from like, I had one girl once from school who I haven't spoken to for like years, and she left, you know, a while before, and she messaged me like, I came across your podcast. I don't know how she found it because we didn't follow each other previously. So to receive that and to have people that I used to, you know supporting it and listening in that I otherwise would never have known had she not messaged me is really wonderful. It's really sweet when people do that. I really appreciate it. Because often people will be like, I'm sure you get told loads. And I'm like, no. It's so cool when people take the time to message, because it feels like, I mean, I feel valued anyway doing the work because I know people enjoy it. I can see that in the downloads and things, but to get like for someone to take the time out personally and message you, just, yeah, it feels nice.
Yeah, that's the icing on the cake, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like you say, it's the personal touch that, you know, doing solo episodes, you're not getting.
Yeah.
So where did the spirituality come from you? Was it something that was in your family as you were growing up? Is it something that you've identified?
I think it's within every being as a child. And then it's the world that kind of pushes that away and we get put into a box. But for me, I guess it was always there. I always had questions. I was the kid who wanted to know why. I still am. Why am I doing something? It's not just, okay, I'm now spiritual and my mindset is very that way, so I just accept what any guru says to me. I still want to know why. I still have a very logical mind. So having these big questions from a young age of like, what am I doing here? Hold on, I'm alive and I'm only young, but I am going to die. So really, why am I here? And I think just, having such big questions and then recognizing no one can answer them for me. There isn't a parent or an auntie or even a temple that I can go to that will fulfill that question. So it was, okay, hold on, I'm going to have to pursue it myself. So I just got really obsessed with watching people like Sadhguru and Tony Robbins and Oprah Winfrey, and I'd be in the like shower and I'd have it on and my mom used to be like, what are you listening to? And I'm like, it was just satisfying a little bit, helping me piece together what it meant for me. And then very quickly I realized actually what it means for me is going to be different for what it means to you or to my friends or to my family. And that's what I meant earlier when I said like it can be really isolating, because you come to understand the journey is really, really solo, but in that solitude is a really immense amount of bliss and peace that a worldly desire cannot fulfill. So for me, the spiritual part of me has always been there. It will always be there. And I think it's actually what we are. And then we just have a human case to experience this human life. We are just souls full of love. We've come from love and we'll return back to the love. And so it's just kind of finding your way through the human life and what it means for you and who you want to be and what you want to leave behind.
So do you think then that do you feel that your spirituality is a guide and helps you to navigate your journey?
I actually think it's the other way around. I think we are spiritual first, and then it's less about it figuring out the humanness, but it kind of is, that is the path, and then the humanness gets in the way. And sometimes people think we're human first and then we're spiritual, but really we're spiritual and then we're human. So when we flip it on its head like that, you come to realize actually, depending on what mindset you want to go, you can kind of go the route of everything's already written and I'm just following it. Or you can go the way that I'm, the master of this life. The creation that's happening is because of me, which I love because it gives you that internal locus of control. You can then choose your day, and as a result, choose the kind of life that you have, which isn't to say that sometimes things do happen to help us grow. It's put there for a reason. We're meant to meet certain people and experience certain things. So for me, it's definitely more about, I am a spiritual being, and then I'm having the human experience, as opposed to I'm human, let me try and be a bit spiritual.
I love it from that way around.
Yeah.
Because I think the modern world does tend to make us think very much of our humanness first and foremost, and in quite a sort of selfish way, which, I don't know, I mean, would some people say that we are a spiritual being and you're looking inwards on yourself? Would some people describe that as selfish, do you think? Personally, I don't think it is, but...
I really love this. I have to just say, I really love this, because the world tries to make it look like selfishness is a bad thing, but I don't think it's selfishness. I think it's being your own self-advocate. And as I've gone through my life, especially the last few years, where my work now is very much about talking about these kind of things and doing it from a place of love, because I've been there. Often people tell you, don't do that, and you've got to fulfill your parents' expectations, for example, or especially being Asian, I've had that, you've got to go to school. And then I dropped out of school at 15. I was homeschooled. So I did get an education. I didn't just completely. But, I had plenty of people then, but like, and people are going to talk regardless of what you do. First of all, go and live your life. The people who you're molding who you're molding your life around because of what they might think, they're going to be dead in 100 years, but so are you. So just go and live your life. Got to say that first. But yeah, I think the selfishness thing is you've got to be selfish to be self-full, and when you're full, you can then spread that love outwards. And if your cup is empty, which I learned really early on, you can't help anybody. You're dry. And I'm all about giving and serving humanity. It's the core of what I'm doing here. But I know in order to do that to my fullest capacity, I have to be full and I have to look after me. So I'm okay with saying no. I'm okay with not going to the event. I'm okay with missing out here if it means that I'm fuller as a result and I can do my job properly. So the human selfishness of greed, absolutely, we don't want any of that. But the part of us that we're filling our energy and our vibration and raising that, and we're putting time into us and saying no to things that are taking away from that life force, it's not selfishness. It's being your advocate, which you have to be, because in life, no one else is going to look after you how you can look after you. But also we can't expect people to look after us how we would look after us. It's not anybody else's responsibility. It's like that idea people always say, like, when I meet somebody, then I'll be happy. Then you're putting your happiness on them. And then you're going to have a really negative dynamic in your relationship, because you're trying to want them to make you happy, and you think you've got to make them happy. No, you've both got to be like full human beings before, and then you can go into that relationship, for example. But it's the same outside of that. It's the same in our personal, lives, in our work lives, like make you full, make you great, and then let that spill over. So be a self-advocate.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that you express it so beautifully.
Thank you.
It's like society, social media especially, or the media in general, makes us feel that we have to externalize all our thoughts, and seems to be the best possible source there is for bringing us down and emptying our cups. So to fill ourselves is just so important, isn't it? And so many people, I think, still don't appreciate that is something that does enable us to give back. I mean, do you feel that there are ways that we could make this more accessible to people?
For me, it always comes back down to very simple practices. My first one that I will always talk about, I spoke about it in, I think, every podcast I've been on. I spoke about it on my podcast. I will continue to talk about it, is gratitude. It's the thing, it changed my life. It took me from a very dark place into quite a stable place very quickly. And I think we all think we're grateful. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful I have a home. But when you really appreciate the thing in front of you, the energy that gratitude brings you is like unmatched. I can't explain it unless you do it for yourself. And that vibration then allows for you to bring more of the goodness into your world. So gratitude is always one that I go back to. Movement of the body is a really big one. I'm really into training and fitness. It's something that, again, like actually I will rather train for an hour than meditate for an hour. And that's coming from someone, who's, I like my meditation, because for me, that is being able to look after the body is really important. I know we spoke about we're spiritual beings before we're human beings. However, we are having a human experience. So we can't ignore the case that we're in, the vehicle we're in. We have to look after it. And for it to be optimal, we have to nourish it the correct ways, which includes training and movement. And that's not to say you've got to become like a Hyrox like athlete or like, you know, but just finding the thing that works for you. Yeah. You know, finding the thing that works for you. Pilates, you know, walking, it can be anything, but just do something for your body. So I'll always return to that. And then another one for me is solitude. I know some people are really like get their energy from being quite around people and they love that. Whereas I'm quite an introvert. So if you're an extrovert, go for that. But finding your thing, if you're an introvert, extrovert, and just nourishing you. Music can be one, grounding, being in nature. There's loads, but often I feel like it's the really simple things and just not putting our worth and validation on things external to us, coming back home to us, coming back to the soul and when we quieten that down, it allows for that energy to re-energize us and lets the soul come out. And when you do anything with your soul, you can feel it from other people. So people are going to feel you too.
So is there any particular advice you would give to people who would like to start practicing more gratitude? How would somebody start?
I actually read a book by Rhonda Byrne called The Magic. Oh, Lord. That book. It's a good book. When people ask me like book recommendations, it's the first thing. Okay. So for anybody who doesn't know, it's like you have a little bit in the beginning that you read, and then it's a 28 days of, it gives you like a task each day, and it builds up this kind of the feeling of gratitude, but you see the magic of it, play out in your life and how much like being grateful fundamentally changes your life because it changes your frequency. So then you feel better. In order to attract, you've got to feel good. When you're trying to attract from a place of lack, it's never going to work because you're coming from lack, that you don't have enough. When you already are abundant in your energy, you're then able to bring in more of the goodness. So I would say definitely read that book if you're quite new to it. But I think on like a really simple, basic level, when we think of something we're grateful for, so it could be this mic right now. I'm really grateful to be here with a lovely human being in this wonderful place. But then also, why am I grateful for that? Because I can say, thank you, I'm grateful this mic is making me sound better than I probably do. But really, I'm grateful because I'm so glad that I'm in a room with people I can have these conversations with. It allows for this love of, you know, consciousness, this message to reach more people and for it to touch the world, for it to grow your podcast, for it to grow my podcast. So really, on a deeper level, it isn't just about the mic, it's about so much more. So when you really think about why, and it can be as simple as I've literally just picked a mic because it's in front of me. You can do the same with your coffee. Like on the way I grabbed a coffee, like I told you, I was just so grateful to have a break from the 50-mile-per-hour speed limit I was on. So it can be really simple things. And really in life, the richness of life comes from the simple things. I love nice things and I'm never going to say I don't. Like I said, we're having the human experience. I like the nice cars. I like the nice hotels. However, the joy and the true beautiful feeling of life comes from the simple moments, like when the sun is on your skin in the car, when you're driving, or, you know, you might be at a red light, but actually your favorite song has just come on. So now you get to enjoy that. That is really where the magic of life comes from. So which often comes back down to gratitude. So gratitude is simple, but whatever it is that you're grateful for, ask the one question, why? And it will just amplify that gratitude so much more.
I like that. That's made it very simple. And I like that a lot. I've read Rhonda Byrne's book, The Secret.
Oh yeah, a lot of people. That is a famous book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that taught me an awful lot and helped me along my journey as well. But I didn't know about the one called The Magic, so that is now on my reading list.
Yeah, everyone talks about The Secret. Like anytime I mention the word law of attraction or manifest, they're like, oh, I read The Secret. I'm like, yeah, but the real, like, it's good. It is good. I'll give her that. But go to The Magic. It's so powerful. And I feel like it's just not spoken about. And I got given it as a gift for Christmas. It sat on my shelf and I was like, yeah, I'm never going to read that. What? And then for some reason, I was so desperate for answers and for help at that point in my life. I don't know what led me to go and pick that book up off the shelf. I just thought, okay, whatever. I just was looking at the pages and I was like, okay, I'm grateful. You know, I came from the ego. Well, I'm grateful for my life. What? And then as I was reading it, I was like, I've got to give it a fighting chance. You know, it'd be unfair of me to just put it back down. And then like, as it was going on each day, I was like, whoa, life is really amazing. So definitely give it a chance. It can be a bit long. You've got tasks every day to do. It's so worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just put a little bit of time aside.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
but glad to your journey. Mental note there, folks. Go to it. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
So that nobody can
No excuses.
escape.
Yeah. I want messages in my, like, you guys better follow me and message me and be like, that book? I'm kidding.
Yeah, start a whole new thing, which is marvellous. Are there any other sort of books or tools or people that you've come across that are significant like that?
I try not to too much give the power to external things because I trust that the internal journey will take you where you're meant to. And I've seen that so many times in my own life. I'll go to the right book or the right event, or I meet the right person, or I have the right conversation, or I've been placed in a course and I don't know what I'm doing here, and it just connects me with that one idea that I didn't even know I had. And so there definitely are, which I'll get to in a second. But I do like to say something that, like, my mum always taught me, was that it's already within you to connect to God, to connect to the good things. It's inside you. You don't need to smoke anything or take anything or go anywhere. It's in you. And spirituality can be fun when we have the little tools and gadgets, but don't ever take away from the fact that you've already got the power. You are the power. Don't give that away to anything or to something because you think now, oh, my intuition only works when I don't know, swing a pendulum around. No, you've already got it. However, I'm trying to think. I've read some cool books. I feel like they just kind of came when they were meant to. And I like to mix them up between spiritual and also then, like, you know, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. That's a good one. Oh Lord. Yeah. Got me up and like going. I'll think. And if it gets back to me, I'll let you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think just trusting that inner guidance, like when you make a decision within yourself, that is then when the universe or God or life, whoever you believe in or don't believe in, will then conspire to bring it to you. So once you've made the decision, I want peace, or I only want people who are benefiting this journey, you'll start noticing the people just drop off, or whatever it may be. Make that decision with you. I want better for my life. Make that decision now and notice tomorrow. That's interesting that podcast came up with Debs and Summer, you know?
Yeah.
So it can just be like, you make the decision first, not externally. Sometimes you can get a little prompt. The universe can give you a little kick up the arse. I've seen that a few times. I've had it a few times.
Sometimes it keeps going, come on, why are you ignoring this?
It'll keep showing you. It's getting louder and louder and louder until you listen. So sometimes it can be that way, but often it's just about, okay, I've done this. I've read the gratitude book, for example, and I listened to this episode of this podcast, and then it will lead to the next thing. Don't overthink it. I do think, like, there's a beautiful quote by Rumi: as you start to walk on the way appears. And I've just seen it time and time again in my spiritual life, in my personal life, in my work life. When I started the podcast, I had no idea I would be a #1 podcast. I didn't know, but if I hadn't taken the first step to have the conversation with an editor, for example, it would never have come. So we get so worried on the whole staircase, but that's not our job. Our job is just to worry about the step in front of us and then take the next one. And before you know it, you're halfway up the staircase. But had you not just taken the first step and done the one little thing, you would never have actually set foot and begun the journey. So just start.
That's it, isn't it? There's another famous quote, and I cannot for the life of me think who said it, but every journey starts with just a single step.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's so true, isn't it, what you're saying? I mean, before I sort of started to become aware of this whole holistic health world, I would have called spirituality back then. It was only ever deemed to as being religion initially when I was a kid. They weren't separated out into two different things. And from my personal understanding, they are not the same at all. You can call them the same if you wish, but for me personally, they are entirely separate beings. And spirituality, when I started to become aware, was originally something that I thought, well, just follow your gut instinct. How many times have you not and regretted it?
I think because of my age and being this way inclined, it actually was really negative to have growing up, because it meant that I had this calling or I had this knowing, and being a child trying to express that, adults just look at you and just like, oh, just shut up. You know what I mean? It's all right. You don't know, whatever. And so a really great example of this is I just wasn't a kid that was made for school. I never enjoyed it. You know, often people, they were the best days of my life. Enjoy it while they're here. And I'm looking at them like, this is the best. Like, this is the best. Like, what? And I just knew I would be happier doing it from home. I just knew. I knew. And I kept asking my mum. It took me 4 years to get there. And I got there eventually, so be persistent. And it was the best decision ever. And it's not to say it wasn't scary. It absolutely was. Being Asian, there's a model that goes, and you follow that model and you don't stray from that. And I could have really messed it up. I had a teacher at school who ironically was the pastoral care lady. She told me, "You're ruining your life. What are you doing?" And I just looked at her and I was like, oh, like even a teacher thinks this is bad. But am I going to trust the teacher, or am I going to trust this thing in me that's telling me there's something better for you, girl? And when I left, it was just instantly like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, and it gave me the space and the time to really discover who I was and what I wanted to do in the world, and not having to then conform to a version of me that I wasn't in school was just so freeing. And I would not be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't left school, because I'd probably still be stuck in the bubble of caring what other people thought. That's not to say that I don't care. Like often people are like, oh, this is really brave to be able to put yourself out there. I'm like, no, I'm still scared. There are still moments, like now this is the first one I've done where I'm speaking to somebody in real life, and your things come up where you feel like, oh God, like what if someone sees? But it's like, okay, going back to the things that I preach and talk about, I've got to also be an example of that. I don't want to just talk about it, but really I'm not like practicing it, because the things that I talk about is because I've learned it. So let's put that to the test. That's not to say all these things I've learned don't still test me. They come up a lot, plenty of times. So for me, I think it's like you just got to keep following it. But I guess it wasn't a complete answer to your question, but there have been times. I think now it's just learning to trust it. And the more that intuition comes in and that feeling and that knowing, it starts off really gentle and you just keep trusting it. And then you just trust it to a point where you just do it, even sometimes when you don't know why. And it can be hard and it is scary because you've got no external validation that what you're doing is correct, but you'll always end up somewhere beautiful. And I think sometimes don't worry too much, even if you haven't done it. Often people look back and I wish and I regret, and that takes that energy that you put into being upset that you didn't takes away from this moment. And now you're robbing yourself of this moment too. And in 5 years, you're going to look back and go, I wish I wasn't. And you're doing it again. Accept it as it was. Trust that it was meant to happen the way that it did. And just understand, okay, I've learned from that and next time I'll do better. But just because you don't follow your intuition doesn't mean your life is now going to be, you're like, it's doomed. It's okay. Your intuition loves you. It will help you again next time. And if you don't follow it, it's okay. We learn again. We keep getting up. So,
which is just such a fabulous viewpoint, a fabulous way of being. And I found that as I was coming through on my personal journey, somebody once said to me, says, you are driven by adrenaline. You just run on that. And it took, at the time, I sort of thought, yeah, right, maybe I am. And that was the depth of my sort of reflection on that point. Later on, I'm like, yes, I now see, where that person was coming from. Yeah. And yes, at the time, I absolutely was.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of joy that I can only describe as an inner peace and calm and just sense of serenity.
Yeah.
That's, not always 100% there. But, there's now always a part of it there, which never used to be. I was without that for many, many years.
Yeah. I love talking about peace, if I can.
Please.
Because I see the world moving at such a fast pace, which I think everyone can agree with. And I'm not here to hate on the modernization of the world. We need it. Nothing is ever permanent. But I think often the world thinks, after a busy day, once I've accomplished this thing, then I'll figure out the whole peace thing. Then I'll try and get to the peace thing. At the end of the day, then I'll be peaceful when I get in bed or when I get home. But actually, what I've come to realize is that we must start with peace. And when we start with peace, everything is better. We flow better. Our mind is calmer. We can find solutions when problems come up. But we also, in that peace, there's a presence that otherwise we don't have when we're rushing through life. So instead of trying to put peace at the end, when we start with peace, life is so much more beautiful, because problems and tribulations are going to happen in life. And I think sometimes when people hear of spirituality and self-development, they think it's going to eradicate those things, but all it does is make you better equipped to face life. We're here to have problems because we're here to grow. We've been sent to get better, to become a better person, to become a better soul, to evolve. And in evolving, there has to be things that hurt to make us grow. So don't think just because now I've meditated, life is going to be amazing and blissful in terms of not having any physical problems. They're still going to be there. You're just now better equipped to deal with those things and understand when I start with peace, actually, things flow much better. And that peace and that gratitude combined creates this internal bliss that otherwise you can have the whole world and it still won't be enough, which is why I was saying before, you're you can be spiritual, you can be religious, you can be a person of God or a person with great morals or a really lovely, humble person and still like nice things. It doesn't take away from that. However, the faster we can learn that those external things that we think are giving us validation and happiness at all are not going to actually do that to any degree, the faster we can realize, actually, if I start with peace and gratitude, first of all, I'm going to attract those things a lot faster. But also along the way, I'm going to understand it was never in those things. It was in the becoming that was the joy. And it's, even something that I remind myself of sometimes. And I think, okay, I'm always on okay, how can we consistently be a number one podcast? I'm in the top 2.5% globally currently. How can I get to 1% globally? Brilliant. But actually enjoying the journey and loving the journey is going to get me there a lot faster, and also enjoy the process, as opposed to when I get to there, which inevitably, if you keep going, you will. I don't want to look back and go, I wish I just enjoyed it. Yeah. Because then you've robbed yourself of, I don't know, a couple of years maybe, when actually you were going to get there anyway, because I'm going to keep going. But just enjoy it. Because life is happening right now. It doesn't just happen when you get to the goal, when you get to the top 1%, when you're the best at whatever you do. It's also happening in that time in between. And that moment will last a lot shorter than the years of graft that come before. So just enjoy it. That your life is happening now. Every day is like a little stitch in the tapestry of life. So make that stitch meaningful and how you want it to look. Because these days are accumulating to the bigger picture, really. So if you keep doing things you don't enjoy, you're going to have a life that you didn't enjoy, or you can just pick things each day where you really enjoy the moment and have a really beautiful life.
Do you know, that's so interesting, because when you were saying that, it just popped into my head that that's why a lot of people, because they reserve the feeling of happiness and joy until they get to that end point, then feel the need for something else. Yeah. Because that end point is so transient, and maybe it wasn't even what they were going for in the first place. Yeah. So enjoying the ride really is what it's all about.
Yeah, finding the happiness in this moment, not when you get to those big milestones. Because I'm not saying they won't happen. Sometimes they will. Sometimes they won't. We might pop our clogs before we get there. That's not to be negative. It's just the reality of life. Absolutely. We hear it all the time. Oh, so-and-so passed, or this happened, they got ill and they weren't the same after. So actually just enjoying this moment now, because we don't have the past, it's already gone. We don't have the next moment. I don't even have tonight yet. I only have this moment with you. So I might as well just enjoy it and just be here with you, because there's no point constantly worrying about everything else, because then you weren't even in the moment that you've just had. The only gift that we actually have is this present kind of moment. So enjoy it.
Yeah, the present is a gift.
Yeah.
Clues in the word, isn't it?
Yeah, and you are worthy of being happy now. It's not when you're not worthy when you have a big achievements. You being here is your open invitation to experience joy. You're allowed to be here. You're meant to be here. And you're allowed to be joyful now, even when you haven't got the Bugatti yet, or you haven't got, the degree yet. You're worthy of happiness in this moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I've noticed in my clinical work how the atmosphere of the whole team that I'm working with, when I know I can feel in the moment and that sense of calm and joy, it emanates around. Yeah. And, especially my clinical work as being an anaesthetist, people like the fact that there's a sense of calm around them, because often it's something that creates an awful lot of anxiety. Yeah. And I've found that I can now put that into my non-clinical work that I'm doing. Yeah. And bring a smile to people's faces. I love doing that. The feeling that you get from being able to make somebody smile and give them some joy. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I'm definitely grateful for.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, definitely. That love of just smiling at someone is so contagious. It's that feeling, it might be a bit strange. I hope somebody gets this. But you're driving and you give way to somebody and they don't say thank you, and you're like, oh, just gave way to you. But on the flip side, when they, all they're doing is just pressing a little buzz and the hazards flat, it makes you feel so good, right? Yeah. You're like, oh, yeah, you're welcome, darling. You can. Yeah. I will give it way then. A flash. Yeah. To the next person, it makes me feel, I'm like, come on, So it's just doing the same thing where you're just being kind just because, and you don't know sometimes what people are going through just to make them. And I learned that because I was unfortunately on the other side of it with a teacher at school who used to be I actually really liked her, but she's really nasty to me sometimes, just gave me a hard time. And I get it, you know, you want decent attendance at school and whatnot. But there were so many times where I look back and I'm like, I was a kid and you could have given me grace and you didn't, and you chose to be whatever, to make an example for whatever reason it was. And in hindsight, really, I learned loads from it, because now even when I'm having a crappy day, I don't want to make anybody else feel like that. In fact, I'll go to a more effort to make someone else smile because I'm feeling down. But really, like, we have no idea, that person that's just walked past us, what they're going through. And just because someone looks like they're dressed well or keeping it well together, just because someone's carrying it well doesn't mean that it's not a heavy thing that they're having to deal with. And I know that because I was in that position, and I also see it, you know, I see it with clients, I see it even in, like, you know, friends and family. Just to be kind, like, it literally costs nothing. And just by being lovely, you're emanating such a positive vibration to the earth. And people often talk about the world needs to change, there's so much negativity, but what are you doing to add to the positive vibration of the earth? Instead of pointing the fingers at everybody else, sometimes we have to point them back at ourselves. If you want to see change in the world, change you, and as a result, everybody else will change. So yeah, I definitely agree. Just by being that, like you literally said in your clinic, you see it, we're changing the world by just being nicer ourselves. Yeah, that ripple effect of just start with a smile.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I remember somebody saying to me, I think it was Jess and James, who said, you know, if you're pointing at somebody, the position of your hand, look at how many fingers are pointing back at you.
Yeah, literally.
That's where the work needs to take place. Yeah. So I apologise for pointing at you.
It's okay.
Just cool. To make the point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, you've talked about clients. We haven't explored who your clients are.
Yeah. So I work predominantly with my mum's business too. I have separate clients to that, but her business is growing. I knew what the job was. I could fulfill the role. So we put the two forces together, which is really cool, because I guess it's not totally normal to work with your mum in the way that we do, especially in the work that we are in. So just to give a bit of a brief, we work with predominantly entrepreneurs, basically change makers of the world, coaches, people who are leading like that. And they often will go on to triple and double their income. They find inner peace. A lot of illnesses that they may have kind of just basically disappear. And the reason is because we work on the energetic field, really. The energy that we carry is the blueprint to everything in our lives. Everything we've gone through in our lives from childhood up to now, we're carrying with us. And if we don't get rid of it along the way, all we're doing is bringing it into the next thing we're doing. So often people can get to a certain point in their business, they can't make more, or they keep having relationship problems. And it's because somewhere in us, we're carrying that. So this is like outside of work, this is just generally speaking. If there's something going on or a pattern that you keep meeting with in life, you keep meeting the same kind of person, you can't get past this certain block in your life, it's because somewhere in you, even if you don't think you are, it's there. So even when you're like, I don't know why I keep meeting nasty people. Well, why? Where in you have you been nasty, or are you being nasty to somebody? Because we're going to keep meeting with whatever it is in the world, because the world is just a mirror to us. So whatever it is that we're keep facing, it's showing us what the work needs to be. So it's not a negative thing necessarily, because it's just going to keep helping you level up. Like, human beings are put there to help us keep evolving. And I know people probably see that in friendships and relationships, even, where you meet somebody and then you think you're clashing, oh, they're just the wrong person. And sometimes it may be that, but sometimes it's because they're helping you level up and get better. It's like the fastest way to evolve. So we work with those clients to then help remove that energetically, to then basically launch them forward back into their lives again.
Brilliant. I love that. And I guess that's not just a one-time thing. That's a series of, say, meetings, of comings together, of sessions, of whatever.
Yeah, a lot of my work is not it's one-on-one, but it's distant. So they don't necessarily have to be sitting in front of me to be doing it, which is really cool, especially in like the world that we live in. You know, you can help somebody on the other side of the world. So that's been amazing. So over the last 3 years, I've probably helped a couple hundred people.
That's wonderful.
Which is really cool when I think about it. Yeah. So that's nice to kind of merge these two worlds. And then often you'll see whatever the patterns are happening within the clients. Also gives you content to not that I just use them for content, but you see those patterns and actually, okay, a lot of people keep coming in at the moment where there's a lot of unworthiness, for example. You use that then to craft another piece of work and give that to the world in the podcast format. So to be fair, it's just a beautiful cycle, really, of people coming in. I get to help them one-on-one, and then I get to use that to reflect on me, because they also help me grow, because I have to keep leveling up to withhold that energy to help people. And then I get to use that growth on myself to then help more people with the podcast. So it's worked out quite nicely, to be fair.
Which is a wonderful thing. And I mean, you said you came out of school at 15.
Yeah.
Just imagine if you'd have stayed and gone the traditional routes, you know, either staying on for A-levels, going to college, going and doing a degree.
Yeah. It's not, I think it's interesting because it's not that I'm necessarily completely anti that. Because if you want to be like an engineer or there's a certain job, of course, and that isn't, just because my route hasn't taken me that way, that doesn't mean everyone's path is to sit in front of a microphone and talk about these things, you know, like we need other people to be doing other things. But I think people just fall into that trap because it looks like it's the right thing to do, or it feels like a security blanket. But really the world is moving fast anyway. And if you commit to what you're doing and you really believe in it, that is the security, because you trust yourself to make it work. So yeah, I don't know where life would be. I'd rather not. I'm kind of glad that it didn't work out that way. And yeah.
As are we all. I mean, without knowing it, your clients will be glad, I'm sure, that you didn't go down that route, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to be helping them in the way that you are.
Yeah. Your path will always unfold how you're meant to. So it's just trusting that, like, the yellow brick road to success is following your heart, not everybody else's. Yeah. And if I had followed everybody else's, it doesn't mean like I would be necessarily any better off. I would be 19 and I might be doing a degree, but I wouldn't have like 3 or 4 years worth of energetic healing experience behind me. I wouldn't have a podcast and learn all the skills that I've had to have the life that I now have. Like, I've learned so much along the way and connected with really cool people that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. And this, in like, you know, as I look back at 15-year-old Summer, I'm so glad that she was scared but brave enough to make that decision. And I'm sure when I'm 25, I'll look back and be glad that 19-year-old Summer just put herself out there, even when she was scared and nervous, because there'll be something that led me to that point that had I not taken this chance, you know, I wouldn't have been able to do it at that point. Because you always look back and connect the dots. You can't do it necessarily looking forward. And that's the magic of life. You're not meant to know everything that's happening. Otherwise, it wouldn't be as exciting.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. But that does lead me very nicely onto the question of, do you have any sort of plans or insights into what the future may bring for you?
I always want to do things that I feel passionate about, that is always in alignment with helping the earth and serving the world. Is something that I've been brought up around, and I've seen my parents do and be unfailing in their efforts, you know. And often we think, like, tell kids what to do, but really it's about showing them. They're only going to mimic what you do. So when you see a parent always helping homeless people, or if you see a parent at Christmas doing more donations than normal, or making an effort to actually go out their way, you're only ever going to follow in that in those footsteps. Especially being an empath, obviously I want to help people, and so it gives me fulfillment that nothing else will ever be able to do. There isn't an amount of like clothes or watches or yachts that can do that. So for me, I know that I've done my job when I leave the earth, and I've left a bit of that love behind, because I can't live forever. My body can't live forever, but I hope a bit of that love that I've put into the work I've done can. So I always want it to be in alignment with helping other people. Other than that, there's definitely a vision in terms of who I want to be, the kind of life that I want to have, but I kind of just let it pave as I'm doing it. And I don't want to restrict myself to something too much. So I just kind of let it happen at the moment. And, you know, a year ago, I would have said, at some point, I hope to have a number one podcast. I didn't know it was going to happen within a year. So I think it's kind of just have a big goal of the kind of person you want to be, the kind of life that you want to have, and then just let life figure that part out, but also do the work. So be hardworking when the opportunity comes, grab onto it, make it happen, but then allow, okay, I've done that, the next thing will come, and I'll do that, and I'll work hard at that and do that to the best of my ability, and I'll do the next thing.
That's wonderful. I really like that. That sounds like a really healthy way to move forward, forever doing your best, helping others along the way, and seeing where life takes you.
Yeah. It's not to say it's not scary. I would be lying if I didn't say, like, there's plenty of times where I'm freaking out and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough, or should I be doing more? Or what if it doesn't actually all work out, even though it's always worked out? What if this one time it doesn't? So it's still like, you still got to learn to trust that. And sometimes things completely fall apart and you're like, okay, I've got all of this, it's all falling apart, but I'm going to trust it's going to stick itself back together. And it's scary because as a human, you're like, okay, but I've got responsibilities and I have to keep turning up, even if so it's not to say that it's always easy. It is a healthy way if you can get a good knack on it, but sometimes it's hard. And sometimes you're still juggling that, or you can have that mentality, but as a business-minded person and being from a background of business-minded people, there's still that innate feeling of what if I'm not doing enough, or what if it doesn't figure itself out, or what if actually it's going to figure itself out. Actually, what if I'm meant to be the driving force behind it and I need to be doing more? So yeah, if you can get a good balance on it, definitely. And I think the more that you watch the universe and life figure it out, and you just playing your part, the more you can then trust it.
Yeah.
So if you're older and you're able to do that because you've had a track record of 20 years, for example, in your field, that helps. The fact that I'm 19 and still figuring it out, I still freak out sometimes, so definitely healthy if you can get there. So the challenge is staying there.
It's very human nature to say what if, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's normally got a negative attached to it. What if we're successful?
Ooh, the fear of success. Yeah, that's a big one. We see that so much, especially when it's like high performing clients, which often they are because they've got very successful businesses. And the thing that then is holding them back is fear of success. And it's ironic because we think that's not a thing, but it is. Because by being successful, then you're open in the world. What if I have, people have a really interesting mindset around money. People with a lot of money are bad because they've heard their parents say it, for example, or money doesn't grow on trees. In our house, money grows on trees. Like, that's just how it is for us. It's that subconscious programming is what's bringing in the lifestyle that you currently have and will then bring in the next part of your life. So if you can get a really good grip on unwiring the parts of your brain that actually aren't serving you, your life will fundamentally change, because that it's not the conscious you that's leading your life, really. It's the subconscious you. So if you can have the self-awareness to be like, okay, there's got to be something not right because of how my life is, for example, and I need to now unprogram that, which there's so much work out there now to do that, then your life will change quite quickly because your beliefs around money, for example, or success will change. And people have fears around success all the time because it's like, if I get too successful, what if I can't relate to my friends and family? That will keep you stuck down. If I get too successful, what if more money, more problems is another one that people often have. I'll have too many things and then I become a target. What if I can't look after all these things? What if I lose it and I make it and I lose it again? Because sometimes that's happened for a lot of business people. They've made a lot of money, lose a lot of money. So then now it's, what if that happens again? So it's undoing all these things that, like I said, often you don't even know you have because you've been brought up in it. So, oh my God, actually my mum did always used to say so-and-so, or like this about money, or that person who had money, they're not a nice person or whatever. And when you start like doing the work and unraveling it, it's like, whoa, hold on. I didn't even know I had all that,
Yeah.
So that's literally why I'm always like, the world is just a mirror. Like whatever's happening in your life is a mirror to something inside. Turn back in. When you can't figure it out, turn back in. When you don't know what to do, go inside. It's somewhere in you. And that's not because you're a bad person. You're a human. You've been put here to evolve. Don't beat yourself up about it. Change it. And then we move forward. And then you'll meet the next thing that you've got to figure out. And then it will. So, yeah.
Which is fabulous. It's like climbing the stepladder, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Because the work is never done.
No.
And if you try and attain a life where the work is done, you'll almost fall behind kind of, because you stay ahead by just keep evolving and keep getting better. So it can kind of be overwhelming. Like, what? Like, I'm never going to figure this all out. But really, it's quite beautiful because as you evolve and life changes, you'll keep getting better and the next thing will keep coming up. And you don't need to keep worrying about like, oh, like, what if I don't figure this out? Because you will. The next little answer will come. And you'll get like, oh, that felt good and I've grown from that. And then you'll do the next thing. So we don't have to worry too much.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Is there anything that I've not asked you that's absolutely burning to come out?
I don't think so. I kind of just trusted the conversation was going to go where it should.
That makes me feel really happy.
Yeah. I think just go out there, make a splash. You're not going to be here forever. And I promise you're going to be all right. The one who has put you here, whether you believe that to be an almighty power or just the natural courses of life, will also look after you. Like, you will be okay. Just give into that trust. And the more that we can believe and have faith, which sometimes can be woo-woo and scary, but really it is the thing that carries us, the more life will just keep working out. And even if you're not spiritual, even if you find this too crazy or a bit left-winged, or even if you're more of a religious person, by just simply being good and doing good, it will carry you so much further than just being completely closed-minded to a beautiful life, because all you're doing is stopping yourself from having a life that is wonderful, because it's in our hands to create. So yeah, just don't be scared. And I know that sounds so simple to say when you're sitting here, but courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is doing it even though you're scared.
Yes.
So just be scared and do it. And the worst that's going to happen is that you fall down, and you're going to get back up, and you're going to make it happen.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for delivering that fabulous message.
Okay.
The peace point right at the end. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you, my darling.
It's been great. Thank you.